let's get started tonight. And tonight we are going to be working with part 2. I had a lot of people request that we continue to work with the angels. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to go ahead and we're going to do part 2 of this. I'm going to share my screen. Still got a few people popping in, which is fine. And I think what I'll do there, try to figure out the best way to go here. You like my my screen here?
Where do you get all that stuff? You find the most amazing things.
Yeah. I have thousands and thousands of pictures because I was going to do computer programming, and I always love graphics, and I used to design websites and things like that too. So I was always trying to find something good. But when I saw the guy with the mask and the world locked up, I'm going, oh, I'm going to put that out there for everybody so we can get that going. Almost over though, you know. I think we are actually going to be heading in the right direction, and I soon. And I think personally, I believe that we will come back with a roar. Hopefully, there's a lot of people out there that are hurting right now, and I just got off the session with somebody who, once again, coronavirus nailed their job, and she's a substitute teacher. So there's a lot of opportunity while this is happening for a lot of people to do some study and see what they want to do with their lives, because they can make some changes. So here we go. We got angels today, part 2.0. And I call them my angel first responders, because they are the ones that do the heavy lifting for me. You know, it's interesting. You know, we talked about ministering angels and attending angels last time. And I think I take mine for granted a lot of the time because I don't really address them personally. And I think that that's something that they are willing to do. And we didn't talk a little bit about this, but they are there waiting for us to ask for their help or allow them to do what they need to do. And that's important to remember, is that they are waiting for us to allow them to do it. Questions before we start about last time? Anybody? No, we're good to go? All right.
I have a question.
Oh, Bazenka. Hi.
Hi. I just got home a few minutes before the webinar, so that's why I'm rushing here and doing stuff. Yes, I was exactly going to ask you about how to reach out to them. Like, how do we ask for that help? So you're right on point with that.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and we'll take that right off the bat, because we're not going to be talking about ministering and attending angels so much, but we have them, and everybody has them. And like we just a quick recap, last time, most people have 2 ministering, maybe 3, but usually about 2, and then 2 attending to start off with. This is when you first come down here, and they choose you. Remember, agency is the primary thing with everything. So when we have the agency, they are there. I don't know all of the jobs that they do. I just know that they're there helping us the best they can. And sometimes, and it may even be, it occurs to me at the moment, that it's a jurisdictional thing. In other words, they have stewardship at this point to be taking care of me, or however, whatever the stewardship is set up. I know that they are there for me. And when I ask for help, and I was talking to somebody last time, they were thinking that they were supposed to be doing everything on their own. I said, no, you need to allow them to happen, and allow them to participate, and allow them to get in there and do some work on your behalf. I don't know what they can do, but they can do a lot. I know that the time that I went through my divorce, this is 20 years ago, my dad had already passed away. He died in 94. My divorce finalized in 99. And so he wasn't there for the physical part of it, but yet I know that he was there. And he's been one of my ministering angels for a long time. I know I really struggled with my self-worth and my ability, because I didn't want to be alone, and that was a big concern to me. And so I was dating a lot of different people all over the country because I was in a job where I could travel. And I remember this one woman that I dated, I just thought, yes, she's the one. And I had my heart literally twisted almost in half because of the response, and I just wasn't working. And I remember being in a fetal position in my bed, just crying for help. Well, I believe that my father stepped in and made some changes so that he could, help me out. I'm going to mute everybody here. There we go. So if you need to talk, you'll need to unmute yourself probably. But I know that he was there, and I know that I wanted him to help. Now, this is before I did any of this kind of work, so I wasn't sure what was going on, at least not as much as I do now. Let's put it that way. But I know that when we need that help, they are there, and they can move mountains sometimes. Of course, they work under strict rules. They follow the rules, and when we give them permission, and I just simply say, this is what you're really after, right, is please help me, and I give you full access to whatever you need to help me on my behalf. Well, that's like giving the military opportunity to choose what they need to do to help and do what they need to do as far as moving forward and protecting you and things like that. Does that answer your question, Bazanka?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so basically just take advantage of what you can, and of just knowing that you have that help and you are never alone. So now let's move into what we're going to be working with today, which is, I call them my first responders. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'll tell you a little bit of a story here. This is how I found out about angels. The problems that I had with releasing. So I would literally follow the directions, and if you follow, if you have the body code, it's not going to be in the emotion code, but it's in the body code, and it talks about entities. Well, entities didn't come in until 2.0. So before that, in 1.0, they didn't even mention entities. Today, I had a session. First session, introduction. What is it? Right off the bat, she's got a curse. And then on next thing after that, she's got demons. And right after that, she's got devils. And I'm just like going, oh, crap. And then I find out she's a psychologist. And I'm just like going, oh, crap. I said, so I've blown you away yet? And I kind of freak you out. And she goes, yeah, a little bit. And then we went further on it, and she's actually purchasing a package, so it's fine. But it was very interesting to have that right off the bat. And a lot of times when you're working with things, that's the last thing you want to have on your first session. You want them to at least get a little bit of calmness about where you're going, and they start to understand that you have some credibility, instead of all of a sudden you saying, well, you got some demons, oh, you got some devils. And that is a little bit hard for people to comprehend. But back when I first started doing this, I just followed my directions. You just release them. Just release them, or over your head, or if they're there. And what I found is that they didn't go away. They stayed with me. And I didn't understand that concept. Remember, I'm a cook by trade. So they would come and they would get in my computer, and they would go and they would get in my wife's sewing machine. And I know it sounds weird, but she would come to me and she goes, I don't know what's going on with my sewing machine. It was working fine, but now it's not. Can you just test to see if there's something going on with that? And sure enough, the critter got in there. I released him. Of course, I just released him, and her sewing machine worked just fine. It was pretty interesting. I'm just like going, okay, this is crazy stuff. This is back in 2015 when I started doing this full time. So that was, in essence, like I said on here, it was like inviting them into my home, and they stayed, and they would mess with me, and I just didn't know what to do. Then what I did was I had a really cool experience. because I needed to learn how to do this. And so this is where it's really important for y'all to get together and get to know each other, do some networking, and be able to share the way that you do sessions. Now, I have enjoyed working with everybody. Linda does a great job. She has her own way of doing things. And I know Carmen does a great job. I'm just there and I just love it. I love to see the way people do their work. And then that's how you learn how to do it. So I had this session with Nora. I'll keep her last name out of there because I'm sure she doesn't want a whole bunch of calls. And she actually quit doing swaps with me about a year or so ago, or a year after we started doing this. I really missed that because she just was really good at what she did, but it really took a toll on her. So when she did that work, there was a lot of energy. And what I experienced from her, I'm going to give you that experience because this helped me understand about angels and that angels were available. I didn't know that. I knew that they were around. I just didn't know their roles. And apparently she'd had a near-death experience at one time. And it seems that when people have a near-death experience, the doors don't always get closed. And so it was kind of an interesting concept for her to talk about these angels. And what happened with her, she had body code 1.0. Remember, it doesn't have anything about entities. And she had a guy she was working with one day, and she ran into this situation where she goes, what do I do? It's telling me I have entity, or there's an entity of some kind. Well, now, I got to tell you, she had the capability to actually hear and see the angels. And it seemed like she would just like step in the back room and she would ask questions and get answers and come back. And this happened with her when she was working with this guy who had the entities. And she said, well, just a minute, he says, well, is there anything we can do? She goes, I don't know, let me check. And that was her famous words, and she would disappear. And I'd be on the phone with her, or this guy was on the phone with her then. And she came back, she says, well, my angels tell me that we can do this. If it's okay with you. And actually they asked permission to be able to explain what was going to happen with this guy. And the guy says, of course, go ahead and do this. And so the angels literally walked her through how to do releases. And then of course, Dr. Nelson comes up with 2.0. Now they have the capability of working with entities. And so when she does it, she actually hears and sees, and she just steps inside, she asks the question. Now, this is the entities here. So here's my story. She's working with me, and she has this situation, and of course we're on the phone. I can't see her. We're on the phone, and we're talking about this entity that was messing with my devices and memory, my inventions. So she said that and I was trying to find a picture I can describe this, but it's the best thing I can come up with. So I have all these inventions in this room, and apparently she was describing this entity, this little devil that was in there, and he was two-dimensional, number one, so he was kind of like flitting around, and he grabbed the wires, and he would start pulling the wires out and making the thing so that the machines couldn't work. And I'm like, this is the first time I didn't encounter this. I'm thinking, okay, I want to see what's going on with this. This will be awesome. And so she says, I said, can we just get rid of him? She goes, I don't know. Let me go. Let me check. So she does that. And what happens is this guy, this vortex comes down. That's supposed to be a little bit different here. But she says, she described what was happening. The vortex comes down, and inside of the vortex is an angel, and they got a weapon. It's like a gun or a ray gun type thing, and it shoots a beam of light out there, and they trap it. And so there's more than one. I just was doing this. I was up too late last night playing. So basically you get the stasis field in here, and what they do is they take the entity and they slow walk him over there to the vortex, and they take him away. And I'm thinking, cool. I would love not to have to deal with these entities once I release them. And so I release everything I have to the angels. So it takes me to the next one. You'll hear about this next, our next mastermind will be about the bad guys. And you'll probably hear some references to this, and you may even see some of the same stuff. So here I am. She's also working with me. This is a different session, and she's working with me. And she says, I see you in your field. I consider it's my shield. And she says, there's an entity up there that's trying to get in. It's like a fly trying to get inside. And she goes, and I said, well, can we just get rid of it? I mean, it was more like a fly. That's what I was picturing, was like a fly. And she says, I don't know. Let me ask. And so she goes and does her thing, and she comes back, and the next thing I know, she says she's watching. Now, she doesn't tell me what's going on till it's already over. So I'm expecting the vortex. Sure enough, the vortex comes down, and there it is. And then out, instead of a regular angel, she gets these angels in armor. And I didn't want to put wings on these guys, so you guys got stormtroopers. But the fact that they were there, and as soon as that happened, this little guy morphed into many, and there was a battle. Now, all I heard her say was, ah, 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 and she was in tears. She was sobbing, and I'm like, you know, what's going on? You know, what happened? And she goes, she basically described this process. She said it was the first time she'd ever seen them come out in armor and have battles. She says they morphed into many, and there was a battle. And afterwards, I mean, we didn't even finish the rest of the session. She says, I got to go lay down. And then she went and she left. And this is probably one of the reasons she just doesn't do as many sessions for people. But I thought this would give you an idea of some of the things that can happen out there. So who are these angels, you know? And a lot of the times everybody wants to know, can I have that kind of help? And I am firmly convinced that, yes, you can. Now, in my situation, I can't see them. I can't hear them. She was able to see that, and everybody has different kinds of gifts. But as you're doing this work, I've been promised, a couple people that I've worked with, they said, yes, you're going to be able to see them. You're going to be able to hear them. And I can hardly wait. I think it's going to be awesome. I don't know if I want to see the bad guys. I kind of do, but I think that the ability to see would be a big deal for me. But one of the things that I know for me is that I don't have to have a vision or a dream or something like that to believe that this stuff is true, or to know that this stuff is true. And for me, it was a big thing. Even my church, you know, they always say, well, I know this is true or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I believe it with all my heart. And it wasn't until I was actually talking to one guy, we were walking in Germany, in the city of Celle, and he goes, you know, I used to ask that question all the time too. And then I said a prayer, and the response I got back in this voice in my head said, why do you keep asking me these things when you already know they're true? And I'm just like, it was like, man, I just was almost in tears, because I thought, that's me. I know things. I don't have to have certain things. When it tests positive, when it feels right, then I know that that's the truth. And so for me, fortunately, your subconscious can see. And all you got to do is be able to muscle test and ask the questions. As you work through this, you start to believe that it's happening. And then when you get it back from the clients, that's when you know things are happening. So I had a client today, the one with the curse. So she's got a curse, and then she has this demons, and there were 6 demons. And I noticed that demons, now see, I don't want to get into the other one too much, but demons have a tendency to eat on you. They feed off of you. And so that I always have the angels go and do an extra little thing. So I say, now I use, depending on the person, if they're Christian, I will use this in the name of Jesus Christ, who has come in the flesh. I use that. I release you to the angels. So I stay out of it. I just say, I release you to the angels. And at that point, I ask them to please help. And I also throw in, there's a couple things I throw in. I should have put on here a little mantra here. So in the name of Jesus Christ, who has come in the flesh, I release you to the angels, never to be returned never to be replaced. I put a stipulation on it. I know that this group will never be back because my angels are going to take care of them. So once again, intention is everything. Intention, belief, and faith. So I can't see them, but my subconscious can, and they come when I request them. Now, I know that they're there because I test. And sometimes it takes them longer to find them, get that taken care of than others. And apparently, they bring what they need. I do know that for some reason, there's always the same ones that come. I think there's somebody in charge. It's organized. On the other side, even the bad guys, they're organized. They have people in charge, and they're set up. So I have the same person, same angel that coordinates whatever's needed. And I look at them as a SWAT team or special ops team that comes in if they need more people or more angels to help them. They just bring whatever's needed. Depends on the situation. Now, it's interesting. I'll tell you a little bit more as we get along here. Some of the things I found even putting this together. Because what do you do when they don't have enough people, or is there ever a situation that they can't handle? So here is kind of what I found out. First of all, through muscle testing, how do you know that they're there? You got to just ask. Just say, are they here? Are they present? I just know, and like I said, I haven't even a vision of really what they look like. And there's nothing on the internet that comes close because I would test and see. The stormtroopers were the closest I could get. But they came in armor. It's not like sometimes I think they come in the old-time armor, which is fine. But I invite them in prayer when I start my session. Most of you who ever had sessions with me know that I always say a prayer. Now, if somebody's Muslim or Jewish or Buddhist or whatever, I just change it from Jesus Christ to the Creator, because almost everybody believes in a higher source. Otherwise, they really don't come to me. Everybody believes that this energy works and that there is a hierarchy. So I asked them in the prayer. I said, please bless us with the help of the angels. And these are the guys I'm talking about. So these are the ones I know. I've got that team. That team is awesome. They are tight. They can do the repairs. So if I release demons, usually there's something going on. I ask, did they damage the body? So today, that person, they had PMS really bad. They have bad periods. And I asked, are the demons part of that? And they go, yeah, they're residing in that area. And so I said, well, we need to do some cleanup. I always ask. I ask politely, and I am always very appreciative of them being there. And I talk to them like they're standing in front of me. I said, please, can we release these demons? I released the demons to them. I said, can I please have some repairs done? If it needs to be repaired, please repair it. If it needs to be replaced, please replace it. And they do. And so I sit there and I wait until that happens. And usually seconds. It doesn't take very long. Today it was a little bit longer. It was interesting. There must have been some kind of opposition. So this was a big, strong thing for me, is I always want to check, make sure they have what they need. Now they know that I really appreciate it because I thank them right then. And I send them, let them do whatever needs to be done. Now sometimes they're used multiple times in the same session. And it can be interesting. And they're always right there. Remember, time is a thing with us. I don't think it's so much a thing with them. They always come with enough to do the job. And when it's too much for them, they call in backup. And I'm going, and I tested that. I said, well, that's true. I'm going, well, who is this backup? And I said, is it like God? No, it's not God himself. No. Is it some other dimensional being? And it said, yes. Now, I've actually, and we'll run into this next time we do this, I have found that there are other types of beings besides devils and demons. There are also eighth dimensional beings that aren't very nice. I don't know where they come from, but they have had some issues where I've had to release them. Other things that are going on. But it says that went 3 more levels of help. I have no idea who they are. I really don't. But it tested positive, and I trust my subconscious explicitly. So many of my charts have come from trusting your subconscious. Okay, so another story. Sometimes I have weird things happen to me. Now, before I started doing this, I did not have intuition. I think that I just simply, through the time that I've been working this and doing this, things have happened that allow me to progress as we go along. We'll talk about this a little bit later. But my sister made a comment one day. Now, I have two sisters that do the body code. And one of them said, "Do you ever check to see if you're present?" I'm going, how ridiculous is this? This is the same sister that told me that she had multiple heart walls, and I doubted her, and I even went to Dr. Nelson and asked him, is this possible? And he says, oh no, you usually only have one or maybe two heart walls. Well, from the things that I've learned since then, my sister was right. You can have a bunch of different kinds of heart walls. And I think that also, we have walls around other things. So anyway, she mentioned the comments. She says, are you present? And I'm going, what does that mean? And so one night, I woke, in the morning, I always like to wake up, and especially when you first start doing this, you go, oh, my shield's up. Well, a lot of times your shields will go down during the night because you have weird dreams. You have different things that happen that will knock them down. So I always want to make sure that my shields are up. And then I got the thought, I'm going, am I here? Are you present? And the answer was no. And I'm going, how can that be? Where are you? And I'm like, I'm testing, and I'm like trying to figure out where the heck I am and what's going on. So, and I'll talk about that in a minute here. So basically, this particular issue, I woke up, and here I was in this Bahnhof, and a Bahnhof is a train station in Germany. They are humongous, big open areas, and they have many, many. I call them Gleis. There are, it's where the trains come in. I don't know what they call it, aisles, whatever it is. This is a problem. I said a German word, my brain shifted. So anyway, the trains come in, and in this dream, I could see this big, huge Bahnhof. And then I realized I wasn't dreaming. I was actually seeing this Bahnhof, and I was there. And I literally stood up, not stood up, I sat up on my bed and sat on the edge. And for the next half an hour, I assisted people in transitioning who were earthbound to the light, helping them cross. And I thought, whoa. I mean, I've done this on an individual basis. In fact, I did one today. And I can share that with you too. The last thing we did, her mother had passed away, and she just hadn't left yet. And so it ended up being a situation where we could release mom because I just helped her daughter. And her mom, and I knew this would be halfway through the session. I didn't say anything to the client, but I knew that her mother hadn't transitioned yet. And the reason being was that they were so close that she was concerned about her daughter being alone. And a lot of times, these people at the time don't even realize that there's a light to go to. They're so focused on depending on what happened to them. Now, Dr. Nelson calls them disembodied spirits. I call them earthbound. These are the ones that just haven't transitioned over, and some of them are bad, and we'll talk about that next time, but a lot of them are good, and they are just concerned. I had a situation where a young man had died, and he had served a faithful mission in his church, and he had just been visiting the people in Las Vegas, which is where he served, and he was just turned 22. He was on his way back to school, and he just talked to his parents because it was his birthday, and they wished him happy birthday, hung up the phone, and within 20 minutes, he hit the edge of the road, spun around, and a semi smashed him, and he was died, instant death. And it was tragic because this young man was so talented. It was just crazy. And here he is, poof, gone, just like that. Well, we automatically assume that, went to the funeral, and a month later is when I'm doing a session. I'm having a session done on me. I'm actually swapping with a good friend in Germany, and she says, there's an entity there with you. And I said, really? And she says, yeah. She's testing. I can tell she's testing. She goes, it's your nephew. And I'm going, my gosh, is it such and such? And she goes, yes, it is. I said, she goes, do you want me to help them transition, or do you want to do it? I said, no, I'll do it. And I went ahead and helped him transition. The thing is that he was so worried about his family and the people that he had served before that he didn't see the light. He didn't cross over. So in his situation, he needed the help to do that work. Now, I don't know, I'm sure you've been driven down the road. I'm driving down the road, and I look over and I say, oh, wow, they're putting new canopies on the, I don't know what they call them. Anyway, little around the front of the storefronts, they had these canopies that were replacing. And Laura looks at me and she goes, "That's the first time you've seen that?" They've been working on that for 6 months, and it was the first time I'd seen that. And it was exactly the same way. These people don't even realize they die. And so when that happens, then they don't even see that light to go to. Now that light is created by you, that tunnel that people talk about, as I understand it from the near-death experiences, is it's created that you have, it's your tube back, it's your way back home. You know, this is why it's there, it's yours, and it's there for a reason. But for some reason, some people can't see it. And that's what happened today. So we helped her transition. So back to the Bahnhof. So the big train station, there were no trains, and there really wasn't any place for the trains. There were no rails there, but there were all these people. And I wanted to see these people here because these people reminded me of what I saw. Thousands of people. They were there in their traveling clothes, and they were waiting. And my job, as it turned out, that was almost like a platform. They would say, okay, next group. And 100 at a time would get on this platform, and then I would release them to the angels so they could transition. And I had, like I said, I had to sit up on the bed to make sure that I wasn't dreaming and doing this. And I sat there for half an hour, and I helped over 800 people transition from that waiting area that they were in. And they had different varying clothes from the time frames that they'd been on the earth. They were stuck. They were earthbound. This was an opportunity. We just did it. It was like an airlift of some kind, because they get on that platform, and all of a sudden the angel will take it away. And immediately it was replaced with another one. And it would take the next 100 people. And it was right around 100 people. So I can't even count how many sessions I've helped people transition. And I had one the other day that she was, I don't know if she was brand new, but it was pretty close. Anyway, we were working, all of a sudden we were interrupted. It came up as offensive energy, entity, and I'm going, well, she's got her shields up. What's the deal with that? You shouldn't have any entities if your shields are up. And sure enough, I always ask now, wait a minute, is this good entities or bad entities? And this is good. I said, is this family? Yes. And so they don't come one at a time anymore. She had 11 of them that all came, and I said, is that it? I had to wait for one to catch up, apparently, and then I released them. And we went right back to doing the session. And then all of a sudden, boom, we had another one. 3 more came on. And so by the end of that session, we had 21 people that we had allowed to help to transition during the session. So interestingly enough, my angels are there. It's the same group that help. Now, I said, you guys aren't exclusive to me, are you? And they said, no. I got the impression that, no, they help other people, but their time frames are different. It's like when I found out my dad was my ministering angel, I thought, how cool is this? And then I found he was my brother's and sister's ministering angel too. So they can do a lot of things at the same time. So, blew that bubble there. So here we are. This is what happened to me also. My dreams, like I said, not being present. So apparently I'm making these trips, and it doesn't happen all the time. Periodically it happens. And that is where I wake up and I'm not there. I'm going, well, where the heck was I? And so I had a big map of the United States, or not the United States, the world. And I would go there and I'd say, okay, so where am I? And I was in apparently I go to South America a lot. I've never been there personally, but physically, but apparently I go there a lot spiritually. And I go there to help people heal. For some reason, I'm there to help them because of what I have, they need. So it's very crazy. And then I found out it wasn't necessarily in our time frame. So I've gone back in time and I've gone forward in time. Now you can test that right now. Did that really happen? You're going to test. The answer is yes. So I've got a story, and it's behind my green screen here. Hang on a sec, as I take a dive into the pool here. Where did you go? Shoot. Here it is. We didn't expect that I had actually put it away. Okay, so this is from a book that I first heard about from Dr. Nelson. It's called Visions of Glory. Now, it's John Pontius is the author, and basically, he's not the author. This is as told to John Pontius from a man that they call him Spencer. Spencer's still alive. I actually know who this is. I've not met him, but a good friend of mine has done a lot with him. And in this book, he actually dies 3 times. And he was born, stillborn, and the doctor took him and wrapped him in newspaper because he was dead. You know, why waste a blanket on a dead baby? So he wrapped him in newspaper, and they put him in a sink. And unbeknownst to him, 2 of the nurses took the baby, put him on a table, took him around the corner, and what they didn't see until, and then Spencer found this out later as he was shown things, that they actually were massaging his heart. They were in the body. It turns out that these were 2 angels that were trying to get the heart going and finally got the heart functioning correctly. Oh, I got somebody out there. Oh, I feel bad now. I wonder how long they've been waiting. Huh. So anyway, so this is an angel. This is an angel doing this. And he experienced that time, and then another time he experienced when he was older, and he had health problems, a lot of health problems. And they thought, well, let's run that what is it, barium or something like that. It's radioactive, and they put it in there, and then they can take pictures of the body. And as they were doing that, they realized that the nurse was telling him, well, if you experience this and this, let us know if you experience this and this. And as she was describing, he was experiencing it. And they finally gave her the motion that says, look, I'm dying. I can't breathe. And so she hits the red button on the wall, and as they are working on him, his spirit drops out underneath, and he's standing there next to him watching them work on him. And he looks around and he sees spirits everywhere. There's good guys, bad guys. And there was 3 guys there that they were in white, and ones on the outside, they were standing together. The ones on the outside had beards. And the one in the middle was a tall, stringy kid that looked definitely agitated. And the 2 on the outside were saying, oh, it's going to be okay. It's okay. It's calm down, trying to calm him down. And he didn't know anything about this at that time. Later on, he found out that he was able to place pictures from his genealogy of the 2 men that were on the outside, but he could never place the one in the middle. And it wasn't until later when his son grew up that he recognized that it had been his son. They were ministering angels for him at that time. Interestingly enough, that was the same time I found out, and I think I told you the story before, about that young man who had been his father's ministering angel. Well, even today, I had another one. So this is the mom who passed away, and I helped her cross, and it turns out, and I just felt, I said, she's probably going to come back as a ministering angel. But then I said, because she had, how many did she have? Let's see if I have it here. No, I don't think I have it in front of me here. I haven't printed that one out. But anyway, she had a total of 20 angels that were around her. 7 of them were attending angels, and 13 of them were ministering angels. This is the one from today. So you think about it, she was a ministering angel 22 times before she even came to the earth. She was her mother's ministering angel until her time came to come to the earth. So there's so much interaction going on that we don't even see. So I'm going to read you. This is one thing. Okay, so Spencer dies a third time, and he is, well, he's just really sick. Let's put it that way. He's just really sick. He did die 3 times, but this time here, I want to read you what happens here. Okay, so he's sick in his bed, and his wife's preparing for him to die. She fully accepts it's going to happen, and he says, my deepening health crisis affected my sleep patterns. I often slept during the day, lay awake at night. Became my habit to ponder and pray during those long sleepless nights. And one evening, while my wife slept beside me, I was praying when I saw a young woman come down the short hallway outside her bed. She turned and entered the open door. I was not asleep, nor had I been, and I was not hallucinating. I've experienced hallucinations and delusions from fever and drugs, and this was neither of those. So at that point, he was curious. He was fully awake. Her hair was long, dark, almost black. It was thick and slightly wavy. It extended below her shoulders, and it was not tied in any way. It fell freely around her shoulders. A beautiful face with high cheekbones. She had the most beautiful, penetrating eyes I've ever seen. They were brown with turquoise streaks in them. I know that sounds unusual, but that's what I saw. She looked at me as if she had come. She looked to me as if she had come many thousands of years ago, from a time then. She was not walking, but floating moving toward me without moving her feet. She wore a long cream-colored gown with no seams or visible closures. It appeared to have been woven into a single piece. Blah blah blah. Okay, so about there. Her clothing was not glowing white, as I'd seen on other angels, but cream-colored. Her gown was embroidered in the same cream color. Okay, her gown seemed to shimmer, and she was barefooted. Her face was familiar to me, as if I had seen her all my life, but I did not know her name. And she never introduced herself to me, or even spoke with her voice. I was in my body and did not have the ability to know anything about her while as I had as a spirit. Now, if you're out of your body and you touch something, you can know everything about that thing. You can find out if you're touching a desk, you will know the tree that it was felled from. You'll know the whole birth of the tree. You'll know about the craftsman who put that together. That's an ability that you have as a spirit. But the body keeps us from doing this. You know, it's like me not being able to see or hear them. But in a spirit form, he could touch somebody and he would instantly know everything about them. And it's a pretty amazing thing. I knew that she loved me. Oh, wait a sec. Okay. She did not. Okay, first of all, she says, do I have your permission to do what I have been sent here to do? Now, does that sound familiar or what? Do I have your permission? She did not explain what she intended to do, nor did I perceive what it was until she was almost done. I had previously learned that angels of God always ask permission. And by asking, and by the burning in my bosom I was experiencing, I knew she was there to bless me in some way. I knew that she loved me like a brother or son. Her affection felt like warm sunshine on my face and chest. I felt nothing but joy and peace in her presence. Let's see, let's move ahead here. Let's see. So basically, I was anxious for her to remain as long as possible. My whole being trusted her implicitly, and my heart answered before my mind could form words. Yes, please. That was to her, permission. When my mind actually caught up with me, I began to wonder, why would God send a woman to me this time? Because most of the time it had been men. My question wasn't about her ability. It was just that all the previous angelic visitors and guides had been men. I told myself to shut up. Okay, so quit questioning, but enjoy this experience as long as it lasts. And as soon as I thought this, she smiled, as if satisfied finally with my permission for her to proceed. I knew her every word I thought, okay, I knew she heard every word I thought because it was the way of all divinely commissioned beings. So she was actually commissioned to come and do this work for this band. They know everything that can be known about us. She rose up into the air and positioned herself horizontally over my body. She never touched me, even though her face was no more than a foot away from mine. She was close enough that I could see the small veins and pores of her skin. Her clothing and hair were not responsive, did not respond to gravity, but were falling towards her feet, the same as when she had been standing. She had an almost pleasant look on her face, and I found myself closing my eyes and luxuriating in the absence of pain and sickness. I became aware that she was taking something away from me, probably my physical symptom of pain, and by doing so, she was clearing my mind for the message she was commissioned to deliver. And let's see, I suddenly understood the vision I'd had in Tahiti. She had actually died in Tahiti. So basically, he came up, the end of it was, says, you're not going to die. She'd let him know because his wife was preparing for him to die. And he knew that from that visit that he was healed. He wanted to see her again. It was, if you think about that, it's quite a story about what happened. But does it test positive? Test positive. This actually happened. And does this happen? Yes, I feel that, I don't know if I did this for somebody else. I don't know exactly what it was, but I know that the work that I do makes a difference for people everywhere. How cool is that? Pretty cool stuff. Okay, so let's move on. We've got 10 minutes here. So what are the types of angels are there? Okay, there's a lot of different kinds. It's just like the jobs that we have. You know, there's plumbers, there's carpenters, there's lawyers, there's doctors, there's janitors, there's all different kinds of jobs. Angels do the same type of things. And these are the ones that tested positive for me when I was checking. Healers, recorders, warriors, comforters, ministering, attending, teachers, messengers, specialists, translators, inventors, and developers. That's enough to think about. Sometimes there's another near-death experience that I read about where the woman goes back and she stays, and she's allowed to go and wander through the village of people that are there. And there's some people inventing things like computers. And this was before computers were really big even. But she saw some of these things that people were creating. Some create the looms that create these garments that without seam, like this woman was wearing. You know, all these different things there. You don't sit around on a harp. I suppose you could if you wanted to, but or on a cloud with a harp. But there's always something to do. And so everything, you got to think about this whole process here. If you look at it from the paradigm of this is a station, this is a school that we are attending right now that is preparing us for our next level, then you can understand why there's so many things to do here. But once again, these bodies that we have, while we need them, and that's why we came, they keep us from being able to do other things at the same time. Does that make sense? Anybody question that so far? Okay. So, you can request specific help. And this is kind of what you were talking about, Ms. Anker, before, is you need permission. Okay, this is when working with other people, but this is how you go about this. First of all, you need to make sure you have permission from the client. What did the woman say? Do I have your permission? Everything, even when I was getting my tablet worked on, the person who I pressed the Mayday button and she comes on the little picture down there, she's at her desk with her headphones on, and she says, what can I do to help you? And I said, I need to do this. And she circles things and has me push them. And then I said, can you just take it over and fix it for this other thing? She goes, sure. Do I have your permission to do this work? This is the way angels work. They have to have permission. Then I even sometimes when I'm working with a client, I'll go along and all of a sudden I'll go, pops up as a specialist. I have a chart in my Ultimate Healer chart book that, if you guys have this one here, but there's up here at the top it says, we need a specialist. It says cherubim, and it says angel kind. It says, I need a specialist. that's what we're doing, is we're looking for something that needs to be done. It could be a healer. It could be something else that needs to be done. And I literally just, I'm innocent enough or dumb enough or whatever you want to call it. I just simply say, do we have your permission to request a specialist on your behalf? I'll say that to my client. And they'll say, well, of course. I said, will you allow them to do whatever they need to do? And they say yes. And I said, okay, I put in the request. It's out of my hands. I don't know how soon they're going to get there. Hopefully they're not booked up too late, but they'll be there. And sometimes I say, I'll test. I'll say, how many days? 1, 2. Okay, so in the next 2 days, hopefully the specialist is going to come and do what they need to do to help you. And accept the help received when it comes. Now, I always give them full carte blanche. Whatever you need to do, please do it. And then when you don't reserve anything, as long as it doesn't do this, well, that's not what I say. I always say, what can I do to make it so that, anybody or it works completely for everybody or for me. Okay, so here's what a lot of people ask me: by what authority can I ask for their help? Who am I to be able to request that type of thing? Did it ever cross your mind? You sit there and you do that. Now, so who am I? As a healer, your desire to help is huge. That's the first thing, that many are called, but few are chosen. You think about that. If you have a desire to do something, that's the first step. And then you got to have faith in the process. Like I say here, you can move mountains through faith and intention, and the stronger the faith, the more that can be accomplished. So that's really what's going on. And if you ask for that, I was not a healer. And I tested to see if I was a healer, and it said no. And I was like, oh my gosh. That was when I first started. And then as my intuition grew, and I realized that later on, I'm going, okay, so now I'm considered a healer. You can earn your rights to do things. And sometimes it's a matter of, that's exactly what you need to do, is you got to do what you need to do to have that accomplished. Oh, okay. So now we kind of got, we're right up to the end here. Questions, examples, what do you got, people? Just unmute yourself and ask.
Tom?
Hi, Linda.
Hi. I had a question about, the experience, that very detailed experience that you shared with us about going and helping people cross over.
Yeah.
I don't recall, was that something recent or a while back?
That was probably, let's see, where was I living? I think I was in Texas. I'm pretty sure I was in Texas.
So were you a practitioner then?
Yeah, in Texas I was. In 2015 is when I started doing this full time.
Okay.
And sometimes, it depends on where you are in your journey. Sometimes we feel closer than other times. Sometimes we let a lot of things get on our way, and we feel like it's just not working the way it's supposed to. And other times it makes a big difference. I started taking this powder stuff to supposedly help my memory and get my brain active again. Because for a long time, I was really struggling to get my brain to function. I love it when I'm woken up at 3 in the morning and saying, go write this down. And I have to go in there and I have to figure it out. I did one today, a session today. We'll talk about this at the Ultimate Healer training. But I do what I call forensic discovery. Forensic discovery means that you need to figure out where it is that you're coming, what's really going on with a person, especially after a few times when something hasn't worked or it hasn't done everything you wanted it to do. Then what you do is you go in and you literally say, okay, so let's go at it from a different point of view. Well, I love it when I get a little extra help from the thoughts and stuff that pop into my head. And I know that now I have intuition. I have earned, and I think that's the way it works, because of my tenacity at wanting to do this and keeping at it and not giving up, is that I have gained the ability to tap into some stuff that I didn't have before. Maybe it's my frequency levels have raised enough to allow me to tap in another level of inspiration. I'm hoping that this is something that will make a difference for the future, and that it just keeps going and going and going. There is, you guys have ever heard of the causal chakra? The causal chakra kind of spins around your head, and the causal chakra is usually not something that is activated by itself. It can. You can usually, what happens is, as you raise your own frequencies, suddenly it'll kick in. Sometimes I have to actually start it for people because it hasn't kicked in. There's a bunch of chakras. There's over 300 and some chakras. But the main ones that we work with, sometimes when you kick into that taps into the God's head and all these other ones that are even higher. And that's when you start communicating on a different dimensional level. You pull stuff in there. So hopefully, I'm hoping that will help me in my process of eventually being able to see these angels and be able to communicate. In my mind, what a blessing it is to be able to, like that one lady that I worked with, and she just like, I don't know, let me check. You know, she disappears for a moment, comes back. Well, I don't want the near-death experience part. I'm okay with not having that. But I think that it's possible to get to that point. All right. Any other questions before we let you go?
Hey, Tom.
Yes.
Can you do the muscle testing just to see what angels may be around you?
Yeah, I do this all the time. In fact, what I do is periodically check how many attending angels, how many ministering angels I have, and I just simply do the testing and say, all right, ministering angels right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I got 10. That's actually lower than I did last time I checked. Now, when I ask for help, I don't worry about how many are there. I just want to know how many, if they're there. I want them just to show up because I know that they understand the circumstance that we're dealing with. If we're releasing 6 demons, I'm hoping that they're prepared for it. And they always have been. They always have been. So when I ask for that help, I use the authority, whether it's, you can say in the name of the Creator, in the name of Jesus Christ, whatever the authority is, remember it's intention, and then they have to follow. They have to obey because it's a law. I mean, there's universal laws, and then there's the man-made, and there's other kinds. There's rules. Rules are a little different than laws. And what happens with demons and devils and bad guys, they look for loopholes. They'd be excellent lawyers. Hopefully I didn't step on anybody today, like I did with the psychiatrist. Anyway, so that is. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Because your subconscious can see 360 degrees around you. It can see everything. So whatever you ask it, and if you trust your testing, you'll be able to get those answers. And a lot of times when I'm doing these things, like they said, go write this down, middle of the night, I finally had to get to the point where I start doing logically. And I say, how many parts is there to this thing? And I go, there's 6 parts. Oh, well, that helps. So how many in each part? Or whatever, and you just ask questions. The subconscious will help you.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. Anything else?
I have a question pertaining to what you just said.
Oh, Bazenka, yes.
Okay, so it doesn't matter what kind of angels you have around you, whether they're administering angels, healers, specialists. So whatever it is that you need, you just ask for help, and whoever is there that steps in.
Yeah, well, I think what happens is you've got that, once again, it's a stewardship thing. So you got your attending angels, and you have your ministering angels. Now, I don't know which one does what. We could ask. Does it go through the attending angels? I think it does, because those are actual angels. And they are your liaisons for the next level up. Your ministering angels is more about, are they the ones that do this? No, they're more about hands-on, try and fix things in that issue, what's going on. They obviously have different roles, and I would have to sit there and test to see what I come up with as far as that. But you can do the same thing. I think what you do is you make the request, and they relay it. It's a delegation system, just like we can't do every single thing ourselves. they have to delegate, and there's a reason, there's a way to do it. When I ask for a specialist, I know it's not immediate. I know it's going to be coming. Very seldom do I expect it to happen right then. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
You have another question?
Sure.
What about guides? Because a lot of times I hear about people have guides. Is that the same as or different than?
Different. It's different. And I test positive that it's different. So I know that I have guides. I spent the time to go through it. I've never really gotten into it. I know exactly what kind of guides I have. I have animal guides that are for different things. I haven't really used them. And that's probably to my detriment. Do I need to use them? Probably. I just need to. I'm so overwhelmed sometimes by the things that I have available to me. And sometimes it's a matter of saying, okay, we now expand. But I do know who my guides are. And I know, and you know, the osprey, eagle, I've got the brown bear, I've got the, you know, different things that have come up in my life. The jaguar is one of my guides. And I know exactly what each one is representing. So I spent the time and did the research, but I don't really use that part of it. But there's other kinds of guides too. There are other kinds of guides. And I think that's the beauty of this whole thing, is that there's so much diversity. Pick the area that you want to focus on and it will expand for you. And then teach me.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yep. Can you go very slowly?
I didn't quite hear that. What was that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, it was gay. I thought it was you. I saw your mute go up.
Okay. I need to get closer. Very slowly, what you say when you request them, because isn't that where you said through God and Jesus Christ and stuff?
To release?
Is that, no, this is, I thought it was when you were calling the angels.
Well, it could be either way. I don't do it in the name of Jesus Christ. I just ask the people, is it okay, first of all, to do this? Because it'll come up on my charts and I'll say, oh, we need a specialist. And at that point, I just say, is it okay if we do this and request a specialist? And then I just go ahead and make the request. I said, we need a specialist for gay and she's and whatever needs to happen. And I just leave it at that because they come. I just use the power and authority to release the bad guys because that's the only reason they'll leave.
Okay.
Hey, anything else?
Yeah, Tom, I got a question.
Sure.
So you were talking about if you're present or not, how do you get present?
Oh, there's Linda. I was looking to see I saw Randy, her lips were moving and I heard a voice, but she was still on mute. Okay, so I'm sorry. What was the question, Linda?
How do you get present if you're not present?
I didn't know how to do that. I thought, do I just call myself back? And that's true. That's what you do. I just, you know how you sometimes you can't quite connect? And you say like, yeah, connect. Oh, there we go. I got me. And that's the same type of thing as I would literally try and figure out where the heck I was and then bring myself back in so I was connected. Anything else? Okay, well, I will let you all go for the ultimate. Oh, Randy, did you have something?
Yeah, I just have you identified your angels' names specifically, and are they always with you? If so,
I don't know what their names are. I know what my ministering angels are because they're my family, and I can check my genealogy and be able to go back and track to see who they are. But I don't know. I don't know the names of the angels. I'm looking forward to meeting them and getting to know them better. But I don't know. I can't communicate with them, so I don't know that. I just have to test. Some people have that ability.
Good to see you. Thank you.
You betcha. All right. For those of you who are going to be on the Ultimate Healer, we got about 7 minutes. And tonight we are talking about Module 3, Beyond the Body Code. Okay, we'll see y'all. Thank you so much for everybody for being here.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
I appreciate
Thanks, Tom. Bye.
Bye-bye.